A Union County man sentenced to death for the murder of
his own daughter. Deputies now say that he raped her before killing her. Joshua Lee Burgess turned himself into police on Sunday morning. Along with murder charges, he now faces statutory rape and a long list of first-degree sexual offense charges.
If you disliked someone so much and you knew your next decision would decide life or death, would you still make it to her disadvantage, or would you act like David to King Saul? Please be honest. Your opinion in the comments doesn't make you an evil person. Monsters don't always knock. Sometimes they already have the keys. This story starts with a Friday like any other. A 15-year-old girl, full of life, excited for the weekend ahead. But by Sunday, her body lies cold in the morgue, her father's confession echoing like a nightmare no one wants to believe. How does a father, a man who should protect, nurture, and love, become the architect of such unspeakable evil? What twisted thoughts race through a mind that chooses to destroy rather than cherish? He wasn't provoked. He didn't snap. He simply wanted to see evil, to practice it, to let it consume him. And in doing so, he shattered countless lives, leaving behind a trail of horror that defies understanding. Zaria begged not to go to her father that weekend. Her pleas, desperate and raw, were dismissed. No one could have imagined that within 48 hours, her lifeless body would be discovered in a scene so gruesome it left seasoned investigators shaken. The county sheriff described it as something out of the most horrifying horror movie, a reality too grotesque to comprehend. How does a parent, someone who brought life into this world, become the very force that extinguishes it? What goes through the mind of someone who knows the consequences but doesn't care? This is not just a crime, this is pure evil. And it forces us to ask ourselves, how well do we really know the people around us? The ones we trust, the ones we love, the ones we think would never harm us? What if the person sitting across from you at the dinner table is capable of something so heinous it chills you to your core? Warning: this investigation delves into deeply disturbing and graphic details that may be profoundly unsettling for some readers. The content includes descriptions of extreme violence and cruelty, particularly involving harm to a child, which may be distressing or triggering for sensitive individuals. If you find such subject matter difficult to process, please proceed with caution or consider whether this is the right time to engage with this story. Viewers' discretion is strongly advised. What you're about to hear is not for the faint of heart. It's a story of betrayal, of innocence stolen, and of a darkness so profound it will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. But this story needs to be told. For Zaria, for the countless others who suffer in silence, and for the hope that by shedding light on such horrors, we can prevent them from happening again. So, take a deep breath, steady your nerves, and ask yourself, are you ready to face the truth? Because once you hear it, there's no turning back. Stay with me. This is a story you won't forget. Let's get in already. I don't want my viewers staying too curious. Now, Jocelyn Zaria Burgess came into the world on December 23, 2003, a winter gift to teenage parents Akeisha Pope and Joshua Lee Burgess. Her arrival just 2 days before her father's Christmas birthday seemed like a beautiful coincidence, a shared celebration that might have bonded father and daughter forever. But fate would write a far darker story than anyone could have imagined. When Akeisha and Joshua met at Weddington School, they were just teenagers navigating the complexities of young love. At 15 and 16 years old respectively when Zaria was born, their relationship faced the overwhelming challenges that many teenage romances do. Eventually, they separated, with Zaria primarily living with her mother in Union County, North Carolina. On the surface, Joshua Burgess appeared to be the model of an involved father. Despite his separation from Zaria's mother, Akeisha Pope, he maintained a consistent presence in his daughter's life. Weekend visits became a routine, and his social media painted a picture of a doting dad who adored his mini-me. Photos of birthday celebrations, movie outings, and lazy afternoons together filled his feed, each post accompanied by captions that overflowed with pride and affection. To the casual observer, Joshua seemed to embody the ideal father, present, loving, and deeply connected to his daughter. Zaria, in turn, appeared to thrive under the care of both parents, her life a balance of love and support from her mother and father. By her mid-teens, Zaria had blossomed into a remarkable young woman. At Monroe High School, she was a star in the making, her talents shining brightly both on the dance team and in the school orchestra. Her orchestra director, Alan Sturtevant, described her as energetic, dedicated, and the perfect member of any school organization. To her friends and teachers, Zaria was the embodiment of a happy, well-adjusted teenager. She loved to laugh, spend time with her mother, and immerse herself in the activities that define adolescence. Her future seemed boundless, filled with promise and potential. What might she have become had her life not been cut so tragically short? What music might she have composed? What dances choreographed? What dreams realized? These questions linger unanswered, a haunting reminder of the life that was stolen from her. Yet, beneath the surface of this seemingly idyllic life, there were troubling undercurrents. Zaria had confided in a close friend about the discomfort she felt during her visits to her father's house. She spoke of his unpredictable temper, his sudden and unprovoked rages that left her feeling small and afraid. As a biracial child, her mother black and her father white, Zaria also reportedly felt unaccepted by her father's side of the family. This sense of alienation, coupled with Joshua's volatile behavior, cast a shadow over their relationship. There were whispers, too, that Joshua might have been struggling with substance abuse, though Zaria never confirmed these rumors. Her mother, Akeisha, seemed unaware of the depth of her daughter's unease, dismissing her reluctance to visit her father as typical teenage rebellion. As the summer of 2019 drew to a close, Zaria's excitement for the new school year was tinged with a growing sense of dread. She had begged her mother not to send her to her father's house that fateful weekend in August. Her pleas were filled with the desperation that should have raised alarms. But Akeisha, perhaps blinded by her own assumptions or the facade Joshua had so carefully constructed, sent her daughter anyway. Zaria even reached out to a friend, asking if she could stay overnight instead, but the friend's family had other plans. With no other options, Zaria was forced to go to her father's home, a decision that would end in unimaginable horror. What went through Zaria's mind as she walked into her father's house that weekend? Did she feel a knot of fear tightening in her chest, a sense of foreboding that something was terribly wrong? Could she have imagined the depths of depravity that awaited her? And what about Joshua? What darkness festered within the man who once called her his mini-me, his priceless treasure? How could a father's love, so proudly displayed for the world to see, turn so twisted, so cruel? The answers to these questions would come too late for Zaria. Her story, though heartbreaking, serves as a stark reminder of the complexities of human relationships and the hidden struggles that often lie beneath the surface. It challenges us to look beyond the curated images and carefully crafted narratives, to listen to the voices of those who cry out in fear, and to recognize the signs of danger before it's too late. Zaria's life was cut tragically short, but her memory lives on, a poignant reminder of the need for vigilance, compassion, and action in the face of evil. Her death forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about the people we think we know and the masks they wear. It compels us to ask ourselves, how well do we truly understand the ones we love? What secrets lie behind their smiles, their words, their actions? And how can we ensure that no child suffers as Zaria did? Her story is a call to action, a plea for awareness and empathy in a world that too often turns a blind eye to the suffering of the vulnerable. Zaria's light may have been extinguished far too soon, but her legacy can inspire us to be better, to do better, and to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Some friends and their parents harbored suspicions that Joshua might have been using drugs, though Zaria never confirmed this. Whether her mother, Akisha, was fully aware of these concerns remains unclear. Like many parents sharing custody, Akisha had grown accustomed to weekends without her daughter, trusting in the fundamental bond between father and child. How many whispered concerns go unheard in the complicated dynamics of separated families? How many children's fears are dismissed as mere teenage rebellion? These questions would later haunt everyone who knew and loved Zaria. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel as a means of encouraging us. Thank you as you do so. Before we proceed with this tragic account, I want to take a moment to ask for your support. If you believe stories like these deserve to be shared and heard, I encourage you to join the conversation. Please leave your thoughts in the comments, share this video with others who need to hear it, and consider subscribing to the channel. Your support, whether through subscriptions, comments, or sharing, plays a vital role in amplifying these crucial narratives. If you're able, becoming a channel sponsor can help sustain efforts to raise awareness about child safety and honor the memory of victims like Zaria. Every action you take helps ensure these stories reach a wider audience and make a meaningful impact. Thank you for standing with me in this important mission. The weekend of August 17th, 2019, marked a turning point. Zaria reportedly begged her mother not to send her to her father's house. Her pleas were unusually intense, enough that she reached out to a friend asking to stay overnight instead. When that friend couldn't accommodate her due to family plans, Zaria found herself with no alternative. Akisha, interpreting her daughter's reluctance as typical teenage resistance rather than a genuine warning sign, insisted Zaria go as planned so she could participate in her church dance group activities. What mother could possibly imagine the horror that awaited her beloved child? What parent could conceive of such betrayal from someone who should have been a protector? That friend who couldn't offer Zaria sanctuary that weekend would later be consumed by regret, wondering how different things might have been had circumstances allowed her to say yes. Sunday, August 18th, 2019, began like any other summer morning in Union County, North Carolina. The sun rose lazily over the quiet streets, casting a golden glow on the small town of Monroe. Birds chirped, neighbors exchanged casual greetings, and the world seemed to move at its usual, unhurried pace. But by 9:24 a.m., the tranquility of the day would be shattered by an act so heinous it would leave the community reeling in disbelief and horror. It was at that precise moment that 32-year-old Joshua Burgess walked into the Union County Sheriff's office. His demeanor was calm, almost unnervingly so, as he approached the first officer he saw. "I'm here to turn myself in for a crime," he stated matter-of-factly. The officer, following standard procedure, began to ask for his name and check the system for any existing warrants. But Joshua interrupted him, his voice steady and devoid of emotion. "No, you don't need to do that. You won't find me in the system," he said. Then, with a chilling finality, he added, "I just killed someone." The words hung in the air like a dark cloud, heavy and suffocating. The officer, momentarily stunned, quickly escorted Joshua to an interrogation room. There, with the same eerie calm, Joshua provided a full confession. He named his victim, his own 15-year-old daughter, Zaria Burgess, and explained in horrifying detail how he had taken her life. He directed the officers to his home at 5100 Hampton Meadows Road in Monroe, where they would find her body. His tone was detached, as though he were recounting a mundane errand rather than the brutal murder of his child. When investigators arrived at the address, they were met with a scene that would haunt them for years to come. The house, a modest structure nestled in an ordinary neighborhood, gave no outward indication of the horrors that had unfolded within its walls. Neighbors later told investigators they hadn't even realized anyone lived there. Some thought the house was abandoned. Others speculated it might be a drug den. How could such unspeakable evil exist in plain sight, in a community where children played in the streets and families gathered for weekend barbecues? How could a father's love for his child turn so completely into something so monstrous? Inside the house, the living room bore the grim evidence of Joshua's crimes. Zaria's lifeless body lay on the floor, her hands and feet bound with handcuffs. She was unclothed, her small frame marked by numerous injuries, bruises, cuts, and a deep, fatal wound to her neck. The medical examiner would later determine that the cause of death was a sharp object wound to the neck. But the brutality of the scene suggested far more than a single fatal blow. Zaria had endured hours of unimaginable suffering at the hands of her own father. As the details of the investigation emerged, the full extent of Joshua's depravity became clear. He had tortured Zaria for more than 22 hours before finally ending her life. The methods of his cruelty were unspeakable. Psychological abuse, physical violence, and acts so vile they defy comprehension. Chief Communications Officer Tony Underwood would later describe the case as involving pure evil, a phrase that barely begins to capture the depth of Joshua's malevolence. Sheriff Eddie Cathy, visibly shaken, stated, "The details of this murder are indescribable. Every officer and detective involved in this case is feeling the effects of what happened to this child. The questions that linger are as haunting as the crime itself. What could drive a father to commit such an atrocity against his own daughter? What darkness lurked within Joshua Burgess, hidden behind the facade of a loving parent? And how could a community, a family, a world fail to see the warning signs before it was too late?" Internet sleuths began delving into potential motives behind why a father, who outwardly seemed to deeply love his daughter, could commit such a horrific act against her. Investigators suggested that his primary motives were rooted in desires for control and gratification. However, the state of North Carolina withheld key details about the case, fueling widespread speculation on social media. These online investigators scrutinized Joshua's Facebook activity, accusing him of harboring extremist ideologies based on racially charged memes he shared, particularly targeting Barack and Michelle Obama. They also highlighted his engagement with pages supporting Donald Trump, Fox News, and the now-defunct group Flame of the Serpent. This led to theories that Zaria's death might have been a ritualistic killing tied to initiation into a white supremacist group or a satanic cult. One particularly unsettling post from Joshua's Facebook, dated February 8, 2016, showed him holding a large kabar knife, with an array of other knives visible in the background. The caption read, "I just really love cutting people. Oh, I meant things. I love cutting things." This post, among others, raised alarms about his state of mind and intentions. Online commentators urged others to share Zaria's story widely to ensure it was never forgotten, while also calling for support to prevent similar tragedies. The suddenness of Joshua's actions left many questioning how someone could seemingly transform overnight into a perpetrator of such evil. Family members expressed profound confusion and grief, unable to comprehend what could have driven him to commit such an unspeakable crime against his own child. Zaria's loved ones were left shattered, and no punishment could ever feel adequate for the monstrous act that took her life. The lack of a clear, logical explanation for Joshua Burgess's actions only deepened the tragedy, leaving a community in mourning and searching for answers that may never come. Zaria's death challenges us to look beyond the surface, to listen to the cries for help that too often go unheard, and to confront the uncomfortable truths about the people we think we know. Her story is a call to action, a plea for vigilance and compassion in a world that can sometimes feel overwhelmingly dark. As we reflect on Zaria's life and the tragedy of her death, we must ask ourselves, how can we prevent such horrors from happening again? How can we ensure that no child suffers as Zaria did? Her memory lives on, not just as a victim, but as a symbol of the need for awareness, empathy, and action. Let her story be a beacon, guiding us toward a world where such evil has no place. In June 2022, after 3 weeks of trial, a Union County jury deliberated for approximately 3 hours before sentencing Joshua Burgess, now 35, to death. He had been found guilty of first-degree murder, statutory rape, first-degree sexual exploitation of a minor, and 3 counts of statutory sex offense. In addition to the death penalty, he received a minimum of 76 years behind bars for the other charges. This was truly an especially heinous, atrocious, and cruel killing of an innocent child, the Union County District Attorney's Office stated in their press release. This case was emotionally taxing for everyone involved. We continue to grieve with and pray for Zaria's mother. District Attorney Trey Robison would like to thank the men and women of the jury who gave their time and effort in this very emotional case and helped bring closure to Zaria's family and friends, the prosecutor's statement added. Sheriff Kathy called Burgess the essence of evil, who stole Zaria from her friends, family, and local community. In their investigation, detectives identified several motives behind Joshua's actions, but the primary ones appeared to be lust and control. During the courtroom playback of Joshua's confession, witnesses observed that he spoke with a chilling lack of remorse. He detailed how he had meticulously planned every moment of that fateful weekend with Zaria, from sharing breakfast with her to carrying out the horrific acts he had long fantasized about. He admitted that these dark thoughts consumed him throughout the day until he eventually turned himself in to the authorities. Joshua allegedly confessed to having disturbing, unnatural feelings toward Zaria, and as she grew older, he became possessive, unwilling to let her be with anyone else. In his twisted mindset, he wanted her to belong solely to him. It was also reported that Joshua initially intended to provoke a confrontation at the police station when he surrendered, hoping officers would respond with lethal force, essentially seeking suicide by police. However, he abandoned this plan out of fear of dying. Witnesses recounted that Joshua expressed no regret, even claiming that he relished every moment of his actions and considered that weekend the best of his life. After brutally attacking Zaria and strangling her, he believed she was dead. But in a final act of resilience, Zaria summoned the strength to rise and attempt an escape. As she reached for the door, Joshua caught her, overpowered her, and delivered a fatal blow to the back of her neck. He then placed her lifeless body on the living room floor, marking the end of her courageous struggle. The community was left reeling in the wake of Zaria's death. Her cousin, Ditacia Wadsworth, spoke for many when she said, "She was so young and nobody deserves to leave this world like that, especially by someone they thought was gonna protect them and be there for them." Sheriff Eddie Cathy called Joshua the essence of evil, a man whose actions defied all logic and humanity. The case was a stark reminder of the darkness that can exist within even those we think we know best. How well do we truly know the people around us? What secrets lie behind the smiles of those we trust? Zaria's funeral took place on August 25th, 2019, at the Christ Discipleship Bible Worship Center in Marshville, North Carolina. In a touching tribute, the Monroe High School Red Storm School Orchestra dedicated their performance at the 2019 Battle of the Bands in Dillon, South Carolina, to her memory. Despite extensive media coverage, no prior instances of physical abuse between Joshua and Zaria were documented. Reports only mentioned his occasional anger and Zaria's reluctance to be around him, but there was no evidence of violence toward her or her mother, Akisa. The family's history showed no signs of such behavior, though there were references to struggles with addiction. What does a community do with such grief? How does a mother continue after such betrayal? How do friends and family make sense of senseless violence? How do first responders and investigators process what they've witnessed? These questions have no easy answers. Zaria's story is one of unimaginable pain and loss, but it is also a call to action. It forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that evil often wears a familiar face. It challenges us to listen more closely to the voices of those who cry out in fear, to see the warning signs that might otherwise go unnoticed. And it reminds us that while justice was served in this case, it came at the cost of a young life that should have been filled with joy, not terror. As we reflect on Zaria's life and the tragedy of her death, we must ask ourselves, how can we prevent such horrors from happening again? How can we ensure that no child suffers as Zaria did? Her memory lives on, not just as a victim, but as a symbol of the need for vigilance, compassion, and action. Let her story be a beacon, guiding us toward a world where such evil has no place. Zaria Jocelyn Burgess, December 23, 2003, August 18, 2019. A daughter, a friend, a student, a musician, a dancer, a life that mattered, a child who deserved protection, a memory that demands we do better for all children. Stories like this are never easy to hear, but every time we speak them out loud, we take away a little bit of the silence that lets them happen. If this one stayed with you, let it be more than just a video you watched. Let it be a voice you carry. By joining this community, you're helping make sure these stories aren't forgotten and that the people behind them are remembered for more than their tragedy. So if you haven't already, hit subscribe, press the like button, tap the bell, and stand with us in keeping these voices alive.